is Cesar Rentie, and I serve as Vice President for Pastoral Services for Methodist Health System. And it is a pleasure for me to be joining you today with Dr. Carol Lee Estelle, MD, an infectious disease physician at UT Southwest Medical Center and the Associate Chief of the Infection Prevention at Parkland and member of CV Roman Medical Society. We also have Dr. Wendy Purnell, an OBGYN at Carroll's and Purnell, and both of them are members of the Dallas Medical Society and National Medical Association. We know that the last 18 months have been hard on a lot of you as we continue to fight COVID-19. There have been all kinds of media rumors and misinformation about COVID and the COVID vaccine circulating in our community. So today, I have invited Dr. Estelle and Dr. Purnell to give us real answers to real questions. These are questions that a lot of you have asked me, and so I wanted to bring in experts from our community to straighten things out for us. Dr. Estelle and Dr. Purnell treat our family members, friends, and neighbors and have seen firsthand what COVID has done to people. They have also studied the science and are going to answer our top questions to dispel a number of rumors that you may have heard. Dr. Estelle and Dr. Purnell, welcome. Let me begin by first expressing my gratitude for the work that you do and all that you do in healthcare. And as a person myself who's worked in healthcare for 25 years, this pandemic has been like nothing I've ever seen, and I'm sure it's been the same with you all. As we think about the vaccine and really our way out of the pandemic, I've heard a lot of rumors and a lot of questions about the vaccine. And from your vantage point and from what you know about the science and the development of the vaccine, can you tell us about how these vaccines came to market? Because here's what I always hear. What I hear is that it's too new, it's experimental, it's got different ingredients in it that will impact me. So can you share with us? I'll start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So these vaccines are just not quite as new as people realize. So the messenger RNA technique that Pfizer and Moderna use is the newest of them techniques, and it's actually been around for at least a decade, and it's been used in other diseases, although none as prominent as this and not so by so many people and is not quite as far as long, but has been studied for a long time. We've also been actually studying the coronaviruses in general since the first SARS outbreak in the early 2000s, 2002, 2003. So really the science was at a place where when the crisis happened and all the world scientists really focused on this effort, on answering this question and solving this problem, and funding from charities and government all were given to those scientists to really finish this job in terms of getting this ready. We were positioned in the right place at the right time to be able to do that. In addition to that, our clinical trials were filled really quickly because participants were very eager to participate. And so we had people enrolling very quickly. And then we did the submission component where they submit the data to the FDA and it gets reviewed. There were no steps that were skipped in either the clinical trials or that review, but they did get to reviewing it more quickly because usually when people submit these, they've got to wait a while. Sometimes it can be like a year before the FDA actually looks at the data that they submit. They dropped everything to look at it straight away, and our manufacturing got started before the final FDA approval was made, which typically it waits until after that is completed. So there were a number of ways that made this a sort of really rapid to market from when we started talking about it. But when we started talking about it wasn't actually the beginning of when we started working on these. So I think that's important for people to understand.
We talked about the development of the vaccines, and I appreciate you talking about the steps that manufacturers went through, all the processes that went in place to make sure that the vaccine would be effective and safe, because I think those two things are important. One of the things that I often hear is about this new technology, RNA, and how it's being used, and that there's real concern that mRNA, I think that's, I'm not a scientist, I'm just a chaplain, but that this technology can change your DNA. So can you speak to that?
Absolutely. So the vaccines, in no way do they alter your DNA or change the way your body functions. What they do is they have the messenger RNA is really just a code. That's all it is. These viruses are RNA viruses. We are DNA humans. And so the messenger RNA is one of the ways that parts of their proteins get coded for. And so the vaccine just has a code for a small portion of the virus that's present on the outside called the spike protein. And it's just basically a short message, and we deliver that to our bodies so that our body can see what that code looks like, so that if it ever sees it again, it can identify it and attack it. So it doesn't ever enter the nucleus of our cells and alter our own DNA. All it does is allow our body's immune systems do what they do best, which is see, identify, learn, and attack.
Oh, wow. See, identify, learn, and attack. I love that. Because I think it does explain kind of how this works, that it really is just teaching our bodies how to identify this virus and respond to it. And so I really appreciate that. Dr. Purnell, one of the things the other thing that I always hear is that this is new, it's recent, and all of this stuff. And your work as a physician who, you work with women and fertility and babies and all of that. There's a lot of concern about the vaccine causing sterilization, causing someone to become sterile. I have nieces and nephews, so it's personal to me, who are reluctant to get the vaccine because I might want to have a family one day, and so they're concerned about that. Can you tell a little bit about the vaccines and its safety around fertility?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think it partially piggybacks on what Dr. Estelle was explaining to us. We're not going inside of any of our cells and affecting our gonads or our reproductive organs. It is just allowing for our bodies to have an immune response. So thankfully, we've got great researchers that have been looking into this, and there has been no association between any elements of that COVID vaccine and infertility. It's a pretty pure and simple set of ingredients that are in this COVID vaccine. And so in terms of metals and preservatives and eggs and latex and different things that we maybe would be concerned about in terms of how it would affect our bodies is not in this vaccine. And so I think if anybody has smoked a cigarette, they probably have more toxins that could affect their fertility than this COVID vaccine. And so I think we just have to be careful about the messaging and to make sure that we convey that, because someone's fertility is very precious, and we would never want to compromise that in trying to fight this pandemic. And so I think we can rest assured that it does not affect fertility, it does not contribute to miscarriage, so it is safe to receive the vaccine at all stages of pregnancy and in preconception.
The other thing is for families who have newborns and mothers that may be breastfeeding, who are wanting to just kind of like, hold up, I don't really want to take this until, will the vaccines, a mother taking vaccines, will it impact them in that way?
Not in a negative way, and only a positive way. So it's actually the absolute opposite. If your concern is about doing what's best and going to be protective for your baby, then the COVID vaccine is the way to go, because that's the best thing that you can do in terms of protecting your baby against COVID. So what happens is those antibodies, those fighter cells we were talking about, they're able to cross over in the breast milk. Those are able to cross over the placenta. So even at time of birth, and which is one of the true benefits of getting vaccinated in pregnancy, besides being healthy in pregnancy, is when that baby is born, they've got those protective antibodies. So very, case reports of actually babies being born with COVID, because that's not one that crosses the placenta, but those antibodies, the benefit, we get the good stuff without the bad stuff. And so those antibodies actually add protection. So I would absolutely encourage all breastfeeding moms to also get the COVID vaccine.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I know I've gotten to see, unfortunately, the negative impact on the virus on us. And for you who work in this environment, and this is my last question, what would you want to share with us as a community about this pandemic and how it impacts you as a professional physician and caring for public health?
I would say that we are all in this together. We're all going to get out of this together, one way or another. And so we really want to encourage everyone to continue masking, washing your hands, do distancing, and get vaccinated. It protects you, protects your family, and it protects our entire community.
Dr. Purnell?
I would absolutely agree. We're not past the COVID pandemic, unfortunately, and the only way we get past it is with a lot of those, kind of strict guidelines that we've been following. I think the other important thing to remember is sometimes it's not just about us, it's about your grandmother, it's about your children that can't get vaccinated. So sometimes it may not be for you, but think about those around you and who you're protecting by getting vaccinated. So having seen it firsthand, it's after the fact, it's too late. Once you're holding Granny's hand as she's taking her fight, it's too late. The time to get vaccinated, the time to be proactive and protective is now.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge with us and your heart of service for the community. As we close, I'm reminded of Dr. Martin Luther King's words that says that we are caught in an inescapable web of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny, that whatever happens to one of us happens to all of us. And this virus has informed all of us that we are in this together. I hope those of you who are watching today will take this information and share it with your friends and families. The vaccine is free. It's available at almost every drugstore, grocery store, pharmacy, community clinic. If you cannot locate a vaccine, go online at dshs.texas.org/COVID vaccine to find a location. We can and we must protect ourselves. Please spread the word that getting vaccinated is the only way out of this pandemic. May God bless you and keep you safe.